So, at first, I haven't intended to send a talk to DebConf this year, but as Daniel said, we heard about we heard some people quoting Debian Brazil community as Jonathan, our DPL. He quoted the Debian Brazil community in his talk, and I decided to send a ad hoc talk to explain a little more what we are doing here in Brazil about Debian, what we are doing here. Let me open something here. Okay, basically I will show some pages and talk a little about what are you doing here. Our first page is Debian Brazil Brazil on Debian Wiki page, and I'd like to start telling you that I met Linux in 2000 when I started to study computer science in my university here in Curitiba. That time I met Linux and I met Debian too, because the labs of the computer science department was running Debian. So I had my first contact with Linux and Debian in 2000. For some years, I just saw Debian as a technical tool to use a computer, but I started to see a local group, some people here in Curitiba. They started to organize some meetings, some talks about Debian, and they founded a Debian user group called Debian User Group Paraná. Paraná is our state. Brazil is very similar to the United States of America, because we have 26 states, and that time in 2004, 2005, Debian community here in Brazil decided to organize a lot of Debian user groups, but as state Debian user groups, instead of focus in local in the cities, instead of found local groups in their cities. As you can see here in this page, we had a lot of Debian user group for states, as Amazonas, Bahia, Ceará, Paraná, where I live, me and Daniel too. Curitiba is the capital of the Paraná state. But basically, this group were state groups, but the people didn't travel around the state to talk about Debian and the other things. By the way, other communities started to found state groups as PHP, PHP community, Python community, and many others. I don't know why they decided that it was better found state groups instead of city groups. I personally prefer city groups than states. So we had a lot of people talking about Debian, using Debian, especially working for Debian for many years. And they started to go, by the way, in 2004, it's good to remember that in 2004, we had DebConf 4 here in Porto Alegre city, here in Brazil. So probably DebConf 4 helped to this group to encourage these groups to work for Debian in that time in 2004. So we had a very big movement from Debian community here in Brazil in this year. As I showed here, we had some state groups, but especially, for example, here in Curitiba, we had Debian user group Paraná, but basically the people were here in Curitiba, working here and organizing some events here. But these groups worked together and went to some free soft events, the biggest free soft events here in Brazil, to organize there some booths and organize some meetings and talks and everything there. Especially in two big events here in Brazil. That was Latinware, that we have every year in Foz do Iguaçu City, and the Fizzly that we had every year in Porto Alegre City. By the way, in 2004, DebConf 4 took place 1 week before Fizzly. So every year the community could meet in Fizzly and Latinware to talk about Debian and stay on the booths. And in the booths, they worked a lot, especially for sell goodies like t-shirts, mugs, and stickers, things like that. And talk with attendees about Debian. It was a very interesting work that people was doing in these big events, because many attendees wanted to buy products, want to buy goodies in these events, and wanted to talk about Debian, wanted to meet Debian community there. So when we talk about local communities, we had some small local events. And when we talk about Debian as a national group, we are talking about these big events like Fizzly and Latinware. Well, here in Curitiba, we start. I was just following the Debian user group here. I didn't feel I was part of this group, but I liked it very much. The people there, I talked a lot with them. And in 2005, we started to organize a free software event here called FliSol. FliSol is Latin America Festival of Free Software Installation. And this event happens in many years in Latin America. So we work together. I work together with Debian user group to organize FliSol since 2005. Besides FliSol, we started to organize to Software Freedom Day. That is a World Free Software event. Probably many of you know about Software Freedom Day. And so every these events we had Debian user group and some others free software local groups. I can show here, for example, free software. I'm showing here FliSol 2012, where you can see here in this corner the Debian Paraná logo. So the national community continues to go to Latinware, to FliSol, and organizing booths, organizing meetings, organizing talks. But in 2010, unfortunately, we have a big discussion in our local mailing list because some of the DDs, some of the Brazilian DDs decided to build a bid for Brazil host DebConf 12. The initial idea was build a bid from Curitiba, but unfortunately, other DDs they complained that they didn't have a discussion about what city in Brazil wanted to host DebConf 12. Unfortunately, it was a huge discussion. Actually, it was a flame war in that time, and we have some fights. Unfortunately, some strong opinions about what people thought in that years that work that are done here in our community. So after 2010, by the way, I can show you here that since 2004, Brazilian community started to participate to go to events as Fizzly, like I said, organizing Debian Day Brazil here and many Fizzly. But as you can see here, after 2010, Debian decreased its participation in this event because many people felt very hurt about some words that was said in that discussion about bid from Brazil to DebConf 12. And for some years after, Debian Brazil basically stopped a little as a community, as a national community. Personally, my biggest disappointment was in 2013 because in that year I helped to organize a meeting at Fizzly. As you can see here, Fizzly 14 in 2013. I helped to organize a meeting there, and we are trying to reborn the Debian national community, Debian national here. But after this meeting, one DG said to me that we couldn't decide anything in this meeting because it was not an official meeting, and we that organized this meeting, we are not Debian developers. So basically, he validated all that we had decided there. And I felt very upset about that because we are trying to make Debian project here return to the good years when Debian project had a lot of work here in Brazil. But unfortunately, we had this opinion to us. We had to heard this opinion from a Brazilian Debian developer, and I personally decided to give up. I said I gave up to help Debian project here in Brazil because it seems too hard to work with some Debian developers here, and I don't know. I don't want this for me. I talked with some friends, some Debian contributors. They were in that occasion, they were not Debian developers yet, and they said, let's create a Debian Brazil community, not as a Debian not as Debian project here in Brazil, but just a community with people that are not Debian developers, people that just wanted to make works for Debian as in general. And we started to write public texts again in this blog. This blog is called Debian Brazil. I remember in that occasion, I created the domain debianbrasil.org.br. But again, one DD said to me that I couldn't do that because I didn't have authorization to create a domain using Debian name. I said, okay, but I will do the same way. I'm doing this. Sorry, but I'm doing this. And we started to organize our local community, our national community here on this blog. But for the beginning, we said this is a community for users and developers. We are not just developers. We are a community, especially user community that anyone can join, can write texts, and everybody can talk about Debian here. So in 2000, in 2000, in 2014, like I said, in 2013 was my biggest disappointment about this question, about the meeting that we had in Fisley. And I decided to, with some friends here in Brazil, we created a local group named Curitiba Livre, or Free Curitiba, in 2013. And we decided to not using anymore Debian User Group Paraná as the organizer of the events here in Curitiba. We gave up to use Debian User Group here, and we passed it to use Curitiba Livre as the organization, like an official organization to reunion people that wanted to organize free software events here in Curitiba. That free software event that I quoted before, like FreeSol and Software Freedom Day and the Debian Day. So after 2013, Curitiba Livre became the local group to organize local events. So basically, we are working here with Curitiba Livre, and we are working we started to work as a national group as Debian Brazil community. In 2014, I decided not to be involved I decided not to be involved in organizing Debian activities at Fisley. I went to Fisley in 2014, but I was very frustrated with what happened 1 year before, and I decided not involved with Debian again there. Anyway, some people organized another meeting there. Was not so great like before, but they tried to keep Debian being active in Fisley at Fisley. So after this difficult years, we have from 2010 until 2014. We have some difficult here, and in 2015, the community, Debian community in Brasilia is the capital of Brazil, decided to organize one event there called 2015 here, called MicroDebianCon Brazil. So this is the first event from Debian community here in Brazil, organized by the community, focus only in Debian. They organized the event for just 1 day. They passed 1 day talking about Debian there, and they had some Debian developers there too. It was I couldn't go there, but it was very nice. So this idea to organize MicroDebianConf and the talks that we have before about what was happening here in Brazil with Debian community encouraged us to start to organize another events. So we can say that in 2015, Debian community reborn here in Brazil. So in July, we organized a mini DebConf inside Fizzly 16. We went to Fizzly and organized one day with a lot of talks about Debian and inside one of the auditoriums. And we saw that the community was very happy with this first working that we are doing there. And we stayed very happy too. And we decided to go to Latinware, organize a mini DebConf there. So 2015 was a great year because we can say that 2015 we restarted again in working for Debian. But as I said before, as a Debian community, not as a Debian project in Brazil. So we had a Debian Day too here in Brazil in many cities. We encouraged that community in other cities in Brazil could organize your event here. And the last event was Mini DebConf in Latinware. The same way like in Fizzly, we had one day with talks from Debian developers or not about Debian in one of the auditoriums. So in 2016, we decided to give a huge step for us. That was organize a mini DebConf solo, not a mini DebConf inside the other event, but a mini DebConf per se, a mini DebConf, a solo event. And in another things happened before. For example, we had some people here in our community in Curitiba that started to be more curious about Debian, to started to help to organize this free software events that I quoted before, that I said before, especially three patrons. I can say that Daniel Learo was one of them. The other one was Samuel Henrique, and the other was Adriana Costa. So they and me started to see again how we could help Debian. So this small group wanted to help Debian again, and before we had another important thing that was Antônio Terceiro, a Debian developer here in Brazil, came to live here in Curitiba in 2014. So in Curitiba, we started again to have a movement to organize something here dedicated to Debian. Like I said, in Brasilia, we had some movement there too. In Brasilia, we have Heriberto Mota and Lucas Kanashiro to helping Debian community there to make some movement. And we thought, well, maybe we can organize a mini DebConf in Curitiba for 2 days. And then we organized DebConf here. It was a very nice event, our first Debian event solo, as we can say that it was a mini DebConf national, because we had just Curitiba in 2016. And so, well, we can help Debian again. We can do much more for Debian than we have done until here. We had a lot of talks for 2 days, and in parallel of the DebConf, the Ruby team, international team, the Ruby team Debian Ruby team organized a sprint here in Curitiba. Antonio Terceiro organized this sprint. So besides the people that came, the Brazilian people that came to DebConf, we had some people from other countries here, and it was very nice. Again, we went to Fisley and organized some meeting there. We went to Latinware too, and we started to grow up. Parallel of this, we continued using our blog to post all kind of texts about Debian, to write reportings about our events that we are doing here, about mini DebConfs, micro DebConfs, and everything that you are doing here. So every event that we were organizing here, we post a lot of photos. We wrote a report about how was the event to encourage more people to come on the next year or to come to the next event, Debian event, local event. In the end of 2016, Valesio Brito, that probably most of you already know him, encouraged us to write a bid to try to host DebConf 18 here in Brazil. And we said we should be crazy. Said no, we have done a great job here in Brazil, so we should write a bid for host DebConf in 2018. I remember it was the end. I think it was in the end of 2016, and we had maybe 1 or less than 2 months to write a bid and put on the DebConf week, saying to everybody that Curitiba community wanted to organize to host a DebConf here in 2018. So in 2017, in the beginning of 2017, Taiwan was chosen to host DebConf 18, what was great. I believe it was the best option too, because maybe we are not so prepared to host a DebConf 18, and sure, because we could travel to Taiwan in 2018, it was a great travel, and I was so happy. I was so happy to go to a DebConf for the first time, and this first time in a very far country from Brazil, that is Taiwan. DebConf in Taiwan was amazing. Was amazing. So nice to go there. So how we because we couldn't organize DebConf 18, we decided let's organize mini DebConf again. So in 2017, we organized the second mini DebConf in Curitiba again. Let me see the site here. You can see the site of mini DebConf Curitiba 17. But this time we decided to make DebConf for 3 days. The year before we organized for 2 days, and this time we organized for 3 days. And we have more people, we have more speakers. The schedule was bigger than the one before, and we are growing up. Again, in 17, we want to encourage others community to organize Debian Day in their cities. And in 2018 again, we organized in the end of 2017, we again we improved our bid to try to host DebConf for 19. So in the beginning of 18, Curitiba was chosen to host DebConf 19, and we said, well, we have to wait next year to organize DebConf. Let's make a mini DebConf again, the first mini DebConf here in Curitiba. Our friends in Brasilia organized another MicroDebianConf there. It was great too. And the fact that you organized 3 DebConfs was very important for us because we felt that we were much more prepared to organize, to host a DebConf in 2019. Besides organize this events that I have saying here, organize events and go to other events to talk about Debian. We started to sell some goodies, merchandising products with Debian logo, and as t-shirts, stickers, mugs, and other things. Because with this money that we couldn't get with the sales, we reinvest to organize free software events here in Curitiba. As you can see here, we always took photos from all events that you organize and put public for anyone can see the photos. Debian Day, like here, Debian Day 17, Software Freedom Day, our group in local free software event here, everybody with Debian t-shirt. So basically, we are working divided in the local free software events, and when we go to other events in other cities outside Brazil, we work as Debian Brazil community. We put our photos in public spaces. There are some events in São Paulo as Crypto Rave that you go there to talk about Debian and give or sell stickers and the other merchandising products. It's very important to take photo of the events, because probably when someone see these photos, they can think to go to on the next event. We like photos here in Brazil. So, and our biggest event was last year, DebConf 19, that you probably already know. Let me open here, DebConf 19. It was a huge event. We are very happy to have many of you here in Curitiba with us. So after DebConf, we thought, what can we do now for the community? So we this year with the pandemic, and we can organize physical events. We organize one event called named Fica em Casa, Use Debian, or in English, stay at home, use Debian. And we have 5 weeks with talks about Debian, 1 talk per night, and with a lot of members of the community, Debian developers or known Debian developers, and in this event, online event, we had a package marathon organized for some developers. And it was very nice because every night we had a talk about Debian, and we streamed by YouTube. We created a channel in YouTube named Debian Brazil, and we streamed alive every night a talk about Debian. Besides that, besides this event, we started to put all talks, activities that you have here in Brazil. So talks as in Mini DebConf 18, Mini DebConf Curitiba 18, Mini DebConf 19, very old talks that happened in Fizzly, like in 2004. So every video that you could find, we put here in Debian Brazil channel. We had talks to from Mini DebConf 17. So we are using a lot YouTube channel to spread Debian word to everybody. And we started to put the videos on PeerTube too, on Debian social stance, because we understand it's important to have the videos in a place not being YouTube for everybody. This is a site where there are a lot of talks about free software, including the talks, Debian talks. So let me see if I forget something, but I don't think so. This is in 2012. Some of people of Debian community in Fizzly, they were worried about what could happen to Debian community, and they decided to launch what they called backpack fundamentals. That was the idea to stay talk about Debian as we can. So personally, my concern about what you can do here, because some of us now are Debian developers. As me, I'm Debian developer since last year. Samuel is Debian developer too. Daniel Lenharo is Debian developer too. So this community, this Debian Brazil community, especially here in Curitiba, passed to have a lot of some of Debian developers inside. My biggest concern is that we don't back for the old years when Debian Brazil was basically Debian project by Debian developers. We need to tell everybody that we are Debian developers, but Debian Brazil community is for everybody, from users to Debian developers. We don't want to close Debian community for only Debian developers. Because if you do that, if you close Debian Brazil for only developers, probably a lot of people will feel not welcoming, and we don't want that. We want that everybody, especially users, can join to Debian Brazil community. For example, in the beginning of this year, a group decided to create another Debian Brazil community, because they wanted to make videos about Debian, and they used the name Debian Brazil community. And we said, well, we don't need to create a new Debian developer community. We can join with us. We can work with us because we are open. And they said, I think this Debian Brazil is for Debian developers. Your Debian Brazil is for developers. We said, no, it's not. please, if you want to create a second Debian community, Brazil community, there is no problem. You are free to do everything that you want, but maybe you are dividing the community. Uh, they decided to create in a way, but today, unfortunately, they are very they stopped a little. So basically, they are working with us now, what is great. Uh, we decided to create to Telegram group called Debian Brazil. I think there is 4 or 5 in Debian Brazil groups in Telegram, but we have one. The biggest one is administration by us. That is a place for people asking about technical stuffs, and if someone has a issue that you want to ask, they can go to this Telegram group and they ask everything there, and the people are very welcome for newbies and people with some issues. Well, I think we are doing a great job here, and I hope we can be we can always be a free space for everybody, and maybe we can other communities can see Debian Brazil as a model, but we have a lot of to learn with many people there around the world, and I think the best idea is exchange experience. It's nice to know what people are doing in India, what people are doing in South Africa, what Debian community are doing in another cities or another countries that we can learn with them. Um, to me, I had a great experience last year because I went to FOSDEM in Brussels, and I could meet uh, another Debian another Debian groups there, and I could see Debian community organize a booth there, and I could bring this experience that I had in Brussels to our community. I talk they here in Brazil we always talk about have a booth as a in these events before. The booth was basically like a room, right, with walls and one table in the front, and in the walls like a room. And I could see that, for example, in Fosden, they use a table in an open space with another community. It's a very nice thing there. So we are always learning what to do with people around the world. So let's exchange this experience forever.
Great. The time is over. So thanks Paulo for this great experience. So thanks people for watching.
Thank you very much for the space, and bye.